Hey guys, it's Dave from Titantroll Miniatures here. Today I'm going to be making a video showing you how to take a model from Zbrush, which is this program here, into Netfab and then into Lychee for the supports and the export of the slicer file ready to be printed. I want to do this mainly because there's a few people in the community that aren't really too sure on how to get that model to Lychee and repairing it on the way. Some people do it inside Lychee, but I know Lychee has recently had a few issues with that, and you know, you're unable to actually support things repair things properly inside Lychee. So I'm just going to show you an alternative method and the one I use, which I think is a little bit faster. So I'm just going to take this model. This is a bugbear that I've made for my October Patreon, and there's like 4 of these, and I'm intending on doing more. So if you like bugbears or you're into this sort of thing, depending on when you see this video, it'll either be on my Mini Factory store, which will be in the description of the video, or it will be on my Patreon, or you can get basically a bunch of models for a lower price. So I assume most of you know how to get things to this point. Basically, you take a high poly model, you dynamesh everything together, make sure everything's all watertight and together. You see all these things here around the hand. Basically, this means it's watertight. There's no holes in it. I've gone through and made sure that there's no holes in it, and there's no like overhanging bits inside, so that's fine. When you've done that, obviously you go to decimation and you put a value in which works for you. I go for about 400,000, and then you export this out, and basically you'll end up with files in here. So like bugbear swords is already in here. I've already exported the STL. So you go to 3D print hub, size ratios, export to STL, and then you got your file here. So basically what I'm going to do is take this file into Netfab. So Netfab is a program by Autodesk. It's free to use. There's a license and a non-licensed version, but all I'm using is the repair function, so I don't think that's an issue. Certainly won't be throwing money at that. So I'm going to go into my October... it's in the wrong folder. Into my Dropbox, my October Dropbox. Bugbear Sword 1. And I still import it, and I think it'll be on its side or something because it uses different axes than what Zbrush does. I think Y is top, Z is depth, but I think for most other things like Z is top, Y is depth, which is why it's oriented this way. So once you've uploaded the model, you go to repair part, to the top corner, run repair script, default repair, execute, and then you click apply repair when it's finished doing its thing. Remove old part, and then up here it'll tell you that it's repaired. There you go. Right click, export part as STL. You wait for it to do its thing. And then once it's come up, you need to edit the file name, otherwise it won't save properly. It will cause issues and it won't actually take your repair and overlay it. So you need to put some sort of postfix, affix. There's a bit at the end, so I usually put fixed at the end. Fixed. Click optimize. This goes through the model and make sure there's no other errors. Then once that's done, you press OK, and then that's that file fixed. To show you what that does, I'll just show you real quick the difference between the two models. So I'm opening up Lychee. Cancel that. For those of you who don't know, that sometimes overwrites your settings, so it's probably best to ignore that when that pops up. Quick access, Bugbear Swords 01. So I've got these two files here. This one's the fixed one that I've just done inside NetFab. That one's the one before. If I open this one, this will come up as a manifold mesh, a non-manifold mesh, and it'll be red. It should be red. There you go. So it's red. And this basically means that this is going to cause issues. 30 holes detected in the object. Object is non-manifold. You compare it, open with NetFab, which is what I've just used, or repair the object using Azure tools. I've never used it. I don't know what it is. So you can import the fixed version, and this should be blue, which is it's a manifold version, and it's fixed. Excellent. One's red, one's blue. No topology issues found. Object is non-manifold. And that's basically it. This is why I give both models in my sets, mainly because sometimes the fixed version, when you import it inside Zbrush, if I want to make any changes to things, sometimes this doesn't load and it completely crashes out. So I keep both, basically for my own sanity. And if there's any merchants out there, you can take the models inside different programs and you can make your own renders and things like that if you ever wanted to. So the next step of this is basically I'm going to run through a simple but effective way of supporting a model like this. So you may have seen my other video. Basically, I've got my lights, mediums and heavies all set, customized. 0.12 on the light, 0.35 on the medium, and a 0.6 on the heavy, which I actually very rarely use, but I may use on the feet here since there's actually quite a bit of space here. So what you need to do is, obviously, when you've imported the model in, you orient it in a way that's going to work for you. So I have spikes on the bottom, but there's no real way to avoid this without putting it on the face. So I am going to just tilt it back slightly, give the swords a upward trend, and try and keep everything facing up. Basically, I want the face facing up as well. There are teeth in here, but the teeth are actually ingrained into the inside of the mouth, so I think the only issues in the teeth will be one of the two of these middle ones here. Everything else is more or less facing up. I could just tilt it to the side a bit to give that going up, give that a chance as well. So the only real overhanging things are going to be things like the handles of the sword, bits of the chain, you know, bits of the back of the arm, and basically anything that's on this downward plane which is going up. Basically what supports do, they catch models as they go up. So once I've oriented it back and basically gave myself the best orientation for print, I'm going to go forward and prepare the model support the model. So there's this utilities tab at the minute. If you're using Lychee for the first time, you'll probably end up with something like this, and if you click in between all these, it'll swap and change. Basically, you hold shift and it'll open them all. This is how it was before they changed it, so don't know why. Basically, I'm going to go through and I'm going to lift up the object by 4mm, and I'm going to add some heavy supports. You don't need to use the heavy ones. Medium will actually be fine at this scale. But I'm going to add some heavy supports on the bottom of the feet just to anchor them feet in place so they don't move when printing. So you just want to make sure all these bits are covered. And the bottom of the... I'm going to use a medium for that because it's a smaller piece. Get that. Get this. Basically, I'm just going to go through all the dangly bits and just make sure that these have got little supports on them. Like if you've seen my previous video, you see that I also use auto supports, but I make sure that everything's anchored in place before I do so. Basically, the auto supports are spread about on my lights, basically ensuring that everything's caught that needs to be caught, so all the small things, so I'm not going in and dishing them out manually when I don't necessarily have to. So you might have seen that finger there, it's fine. Basically just supporting along the blade. Probably best to do it on this angle actually, so like here. Again, that will probably support fine, but I want to give it the best chance possible, so I'm going to support all the way up the blade. And round the back. Just want to make sure that these bits aren't hanging. It's back here. Again, this is barely worth supporting, but you know, I'd rather have that be nice and sharp instead of flat as it would be if I didn't actually support it. So the bottom of the bracer. Add light supports to the tips of these spikes, so that should be fine, honestly. I'm gonna just make that a little bit chunkier. So those of you who don't know, the diameter affects the chunkiness of the actual support, and the tip just affects the tip. So if I move this up, it will get bigger on the tip. If I move that, it will get bigger on the chunkiness. So I want that as a light, but I want the diameter to be a bit bigger. So once I've done this, I'm going to go through and do the rest that needs to be done there. And I'm getting close to the point where I can probably let the light supports take over. So I'm just going to reinforce the back of the legs here to make sure that these are given the best chance possible when printing. They are the back. It is the back of the legs, so you're not necessarily going to see this as much as you're going to see the rest of the model. So you can probably go heavier on the back of the foot if you wish. But again, I'm just giving myself the best chance I can in getting a successful print, and chances are this will be pretty fine. So this is by no means the best, the cleanest way of supporting, but you know, the end goal for most people, I'm sure, is just to get the print out the door, and you know, to get it on the table and looking how it was supposed to be intended, and that's fine. You can obviously save all your resin and do all these tree supports and whatnot, but that's not really what I'm about. So once we've done this, we can probably go through and click on search for islands, so island detector. Let's take a little drink. And obviously it gives us a bunch of islands that we haven't yet managed to touch. So you can just go through and click all these if you so wish. Bits like the skull, which is understandable, I missed that. Things like these armor pieces here, I mean, they can be picked up by the lights. Fingers, mainly supported, but you just want to make sure that there's not a massive difference between the chunkier boys than there is on the little support. So that could obviously be picked up by a thin. That can be picked up by a thin. And what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to run a I'm going to run the lights in auto support mode in a second. So there's one on the sword there, look. So the rest can probably be picked up by auto support, so I'm just going to do another little check. Make sure there's nothing too heavy. So I want to make sure these are manually done. Again, just add a few more supports there to ensure it's giving me the best chance of success. Right, and at this point I can just do a click on light before I click anything else, then add support to all islands, and that will go through and add a bunch of little supports which can be seen like here, like here. Basically, they're all around the model in the little places. So like here, that was before, that wasn't there. See, so add support to island, it will cover that space. In the teeth as well. Obviously, some of you might have a bit of an issue with this. You know, you break that easily with just putting a toothbrush in there and pretty much brushing his teeth, and then that support will be removed. There's no issue with doing things like this. I've done it multiple times. So once you've done this, obviously it comes up 2 islands remaining. This is just inside the foot here, which is not an issue. I can take a support, hold, control, and alt, and pretty much pull a support from that little tab there to the inside of the model. Same here, there's a little gap here, which is obviously just a mistake that I've made while modeling. It's not an issue. Pull that down. And he wants to be a douche. Alright, so we'll take that here and just pull that down like that, and that will obviously support that hand, that little bit of the hand there. It only needed filling anyway, so it's not an issue. So basically what we've got here now is a model which is correctly anchored and supported, orientated in a way which is going to give the best bang for the buck when it comes to the face of the model, and all these bits that are going up, they're going to be printed quite nicely without having any issues with the model. What I like to do at this point as well, you don't need to do this, but I like to keep it as more of a peace of mind thing, is you add a raft. Now I'm using Lychee Pro, so I've got the shape one. I don't think people who haven't got the Lychee Pro have got this. But the shape node, I'm going to whack that to 100%, put the thickness to 0.35. Basically what the thickness is, it's the bottom layer. There's a few bottom layers, so it'll be 0.3 millimeters of bottom layer worth. And then obviously with the angle, you can change the angle of this as well. So I like to keep that around 80%, which gives a nice, sorry, not that, wrong way. That's not right, hang on. Yeah, so 80%, so it's less like that, and it's more a bit inwards, so it's giving more support to the rest of the model. I'm going to add a few more supports to the heel of this foot, actually. Bear with. And do the same on this foot as well. Like I say, you just want to make sure the print sets off nicely. More than anything. Do one more check on the base of the sword. Add a few more there if you want. You could even go up the edge of the blade. Make sure that that prints nicely. Give that the best chance. Now, a lot of people, you're obviously thinking, oh, why are you placing these? You know, you don't need to, it's already supported. Well, what you need to take into consideration is the amount of resin that I'm wasting putting these extra supports on is resin that you'd be wasted if you had a completely flat print. And, you know, people will obviously prefer to put more supports to give the model the better chance than otherwise. And let's face it, it's very much hit and miss with 3D printing. If it's not supported correctly, you know, you can print them on different types of printers, and it might work, it might not work, depending on what the printer is. But I like to make sure it's nice and supported for those who might not use the best printers or may have slight faults with their printers to solve that issue, basically. Don't know why that's red. I think that's causing issues where it shouldn't be. I'm going to do another quick island detector. That's fine anyway. Right, so what else I like to do is I like to click on the model, go to magic, take everything off except for bracing supports, and this will basically make the supports braced manually, sorry, automatically. You can do this manually as well by clicking on a support, holding Control and Alt, and then bracing it yourself this way if you want, but I'm not going to do that. So instead I do bracing like this. Get rid of them braces. Bracing like that. And that's pretty much it. You know, you go to export as an STL. I like to call this, I like to go from my last model actually. So let me just see what I'm on. I am on September, was last month's. It's my Dropbox folder. One 152, 157, 157. So 158. TTM Titantron Miniatures 158 0158 underscore October Bugbear Swords 01. And then that gives me subs. So Bugbear Swords 01 supports. And then once I've done that, you can create a Lychee file, a light file, which is basically just the information of the supports only. So you can edit these if you wish. And that's basically it. You know, obviously these take around 10 to 15 minutes each to support. And I'm going to have to do a bunch more of them now. So I hope this video was useful to some of you. I may have dribbled on a little bit, but I just wanted to do this video to basically help some of you out who might not know the best way to support things. I'm going to run this through the printer once I've done the other three, and I'll might put a little snippet at the end of this video. So thanks for watching, guys. Cheers.